Welcome to my channel if you're new here. If you're not, welcome back. Happy to have you. The last time I saw you, I said I was gonna read book 2 and 3 of Caraval. Ditch that. Yeah, I was like, I'm not in the headspace to be reading this. Like, I don't want to be reading this, and I'm not going to force myself to do it if I don't want to. So I moved on to something else, but at the same time, I'm not reading. You see? You see the difficulty I'm having here? Anyway. So yeah, I've just been like thinking about this, and I have a lot of, there's a fly in here. I've been thinking about this for a while, like books that I want to reread. So I just thought I would share those with you. So the way I'm going to divide this is I'm going to go through my 5-star reads first, and then series, and then standalone books that I want to read again. Okay? So first are all of my 5-star reads, which don't worry, they're not many. There are only 3 5-star books that I have, and I want to reread all of them. I read Kite Runner in 2021 or 2, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and Funny Story. Don't worry, we'll get into it, okay? I do not want to tell you a lot about this book, mostly because I feel like the less you know, the better it's gonna hit, but I will warn you to look up trigger warnings before. I read this for a literature into cinema class. These are the tabs that I had. Look at how bad this looks. And nothing's even written. I just had this stuff for like classes, and I had color coded in my notebook like literally what I needed, compared to the first book that I officially tabbed, which was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Yeah, I'm just gonna tell you the Goodreads summary of this because I feel like if I tell you, I'm gonna give away too much, and I just really don't want to do that. It's a historical fiction book. Look at the trigger warnings. I'm warning you. It starts taking place in 1970s Afghanistan with 12-year-old Amir desperate to win the local kite fighting tournament, and his loyal friend Hassan promises to help him. But neither of the boys can foresee what would happen to Hassan that afternoon, an event that is to shatter their lives. After the Russians invade and the family is forced to flee America, Amir realizes that one day he must return to Afghanistan under Taliban rule to find the one thing that his world cannot grant him: redemption. It's a redemption story, and listen, the class discussions for this book were great. We had things to talk about. It was during COVID, everything was online. I was typing up my thoughts. I was doing my thing. I don't know what this book, I didn't expect it to hit the way that it did. Like, this is my first like official like 5-star read ever. And the fact that I've never been really interested in historical fiction books, so the fact that this was a historical fiction and the story was just there. I'm all into character development and everything like that. I'm a very character focused person when it comes to books, and this is all character. It's a redemption story. You can form your own opinions as to like the situation that happens and tell me about it. Would love to hear your thoughts. I would love to tell you my thoughts. I could go on and on about this book. If you want to hear about that, I will make a video about it because I could talk about this forever. But I do want to reread this. It's been a hot minute since I read it, and I would love to just revisit it. But I have no question in my head that this is a 5-star book, and I would love to go in and just like actually like annotate this and put my tabs in and, you know, just say my piece. So Kite Runner. My second 5-star read was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I actually have a video about this, which is insane because I filmed it in May of 2023 and I didn't post it until like after November. This booktube channel has been brewing. It just never came to fruition until like a few months ago. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I was just wondering if this would count as a historical fiction, which on Goodreads it does. I don't know what that's saying about my taste. Maybe I am into historical fiction, I just don't know it. But this is like fantasy fiction, romance, historical fiction apparently, and magical realism, it says. This book starts off in 1714. The way I'm saying these dates, I'm like spewing dates at you. Starts off in 1714, okay? She's a girl. She's about to be like married off to some guy that she doesn't really want anything to do with. She wants to like leave her hometown. She wants to explore the world, and basically all that society has told her is that you were born and raised to be a wife and you're gonna marry this man who already has kids and you're gonna be happy about it. And she's like, hello? No thank you. So she kind of summons a entity. I don't remember how they put it. Don't pray to like the things after dark. And no matter how desperate or dire, never pray to the gods that answer after dark. So basically she's always been told don't pray to like the gods after dark because that's just like not good. But she's in such a desperate state at this point that she's like praying, and then it starts turning to nighttime. Guess what? It's nighttime. And she wants to basically have this ability to see the world. So she gets granted that ability, but at the same time she's cursed with like not being able to die and people not remembering her. So you could be like meeting her right now, and if you turn around or if you do something else and you're distracted, you'll forget she exists, and if you look at her again, it'll be like you're seeing her for the first time. So nobody has any recollection of her whatsoever, and that is like, that really has an impact on your life. So yeah, just this book was something else. It made me feel things like no other. Like I was crying in this, like when I read this, and I feel like I don't cry a lot, or I don't read books that make me cry a lot, so this did it for me. It's just like it hit close, not gonna lie to you. So I would love to read this again. I really would. Third is a book that I recently read just last month. Funny story, love this. It's a romance book. Basically our main character Daphne is about to get married to Peter. Peter goes out, has his bachelor party. He has a girl best friend, and his girl best friend at his bachelor party says, hey, like I'm actually in love with you, and he's like, oh my god, I'm in love with you too. And so they run off together, and he basically tells Daphne to move out of his house nicely because he's gonna go on vacation with Petra, and to basically get out of his house. And then when Petra breaks up with her boyfriend comes over to Peter's house while Daphne's there alone because Peter just left. And she's like, oh, Peter's not here. And he's like, you know, also in crisis because his girlfriend just broke up with him. Fly.
Meanwhile,
Go away. Go away. Go away, Fly. Ew. Where is it? Go away. Oh my god, that just scared me. I scared myself.
one eternity later.
So basically, where was I before I just got attacked by a fly? Yeah, Petra's boyfriend comes over and Daphne is like, hey, do you need a roommate? Because she just got kicked out. Knows nobody else because she moved to this state for Peter. And Petra's boyfriend basically lets her move in with him. Close proximity, slow burn, sucker for slow burn, and a bunch of other stuff. Honestly, I forget, but it's really good. Would definitely recommend if you want to check this out. And I just, sometimes if I want a light read, you know, this could be my go-to because I loved it. I ate it up and it was everything I needed in a romance book ever. So that sums up my 5-star reads. We're gonna move into series next. First off is Harry Potter. I don't have my books with me right now, but I want to reread the entire series. Harry Potter is really what got me back into reading back in like 2022/2023. I would love to reread those. I'd watched the movies a million times before I read the books. I knew the story inside and out based on the movies, and it was Draco Talk. I think we talked about this before. I talked about it in one video, I don't remember which one, but Draco Talk was a thing, and I kept ignoring those TikToks. I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna watch these because I know if I watch those, because I was in deep with Harry Potter when I was little, elementary school. I was in deep, like I loved those movies, and I was like, I know that this could end up somewhere very bad. Like I could become obsessed again, and I was like, I'm not doing that. Eventually I gave in, watched Draco Talk, and I was just watching these old scenes from like Harry Potter, and I remember at like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go downstairs and I'm gonna pick up, I was gonna say the Philosopher's Stone, the Sorcerer's Stone, and I'm gonna read it. And that's what I did, and that's how I started off on my Harry Potter journey. So thank you TikTok, thank you Draco Talk, you served me well. I love Harry Potter, honestly. Like if you want to know, my favorite books are either, first it was Goblet of Fire until I read the Order of the Phoenix, and the Order of the Phoenix kind of like took over. I don't know, Like, I was in between the two. I'm still in between the two. I would love to reread all of the series and kind of decide where I stand on my debate, my internal debate on Goblet of Fire and the Order of the Phoenix. And I love the fight, like the duel between the Order of the Phoenix and the Death Eaters in the Ministry of Magic and the Department of Mysteries, actually. Then, continuing on with my series, I would love to reread specifically these two. The Hunger Games 1 and 2 were my favorites out of the entire series. I think I'm partial to Catching Fire though. I loved Catching Fire, love them both, could read them back to back, and that's where I stopped. Okay? Don't get me wrong. Mockingjay was good. I had, you know what? I might have to reread that one too though, because I had COVID when I read that for the first time. Also had watched the movies prior, and then I was like, okay, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is coming out. I want to read the Hunger Games so I can read the Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes. And that's what I did, and that's how I got into it. So yeah, maybe I'm just thinking negatively about the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes because of the COVID, but it's a little slow for me, but definitely would love to reread these two. Next, I would love to reread the Inheritance Games 1 and 2 again, because these two were my favorites out of the series. The second one being my most favorite out of the whole series. The Inheritance Games is, you know what, it reminded, listen, I had a somewhat, I wasn't super into it. I liked it all right. I was just expecting more puzzles, I believe. So the Inheritance Games is about a girl who inherits so much money from a guy that she doesn't know, never met, ever. And the family is pissed. Especially like the daughters of this man. Imagine being, it's like, reminded me of Knives Out. Like literally that's what I thought of. And when I looked it up, I think it was, I will correct myself if I'm wrong, but Knives Out came out before this. So obviously this was probably like in, like, she was writing it up, typing it up, creating it. But it just reminded me a lot of Knives Out. And there were like crossovers, at least in my head, you know, from being like, oh, this guy just gave me a whole bunch of money, like it's crazy. And then the family was like after it. But yeah. There's a kind of like love triangle in these books. In my opinion, she chose the wrong brother. But I would just reread these for the fun, because I think they were fun. I'm not gonna lie to you. These two, love. To finish up the series of books that I would like to read, I would also like to reread / finish Percy Jackson. Okay? I read Percy Jackson, I think, when I was in middle school. Might have been before, but around there. I read the first two, so Lightning Thief and The Sea of Monsters, I believe. I know I read Lightning Thief for sure, and I can't remember if I finished Sea of Monsters, but watch those movies as well. Logan Lerman. I haven't watched the show. I remember though that I was disappointed after I read the books that the movie left out a few things. So I would just, you know what, everyone loves Percy Jackson. I love the movies and I love the books that I read, which is the only one I can really actually remember is Lightning Thief. Loved it. Would love to revisit that someday. Then we're gonna move on to standalones. We have 5 standalones to get through, okay? First one, Misery. I read this in the winter of 2022 or January of 2023, and I think it was January of 2023. Misery is by Stephen King. It's my first Stephen King book. I watched the movie and I was like, the movie was fantastic. Kathy Bates was fantastic as Annie Wykes. I'm gonna call her Wykes. Misery is about this author, Paul Sheldon, who writes a very famous and very popular set of romance books, and he's about to write his last one. You know, that's the premise. He gets into a car accident in a remote area of the world, okay? And who saves him from this car accident and is nursing him back to health? But his #1 fan. #1. When I mean #1, I mean the ultimate fan that you could ever come up with in your mind. That's her. She's a little cuckoo bananas, and she holds him captive so he can finish writing the last book to her liking. That is the premise. Very good. Kept me in suspense, and I really liked it. I originally rated this a 3.5 star, but you know, the premise is really good. I really did like it. I would just love to reread it. So, Misery by Stephen King, and I have a whole bunch of other Stephen King books that I would love to read. Maybe during like October, October, fall season, I'll get to those. But Misery, if you haven't checked it out, it's a really good one. Love. Yeah. Then the next book I would love to read again is Under the Whispering Door. This is about Wallace. He dies within the first 2 pages of this book, which was baffling to me, not knowing anything about this before I came in. And basically a reaper takes him to a cafe where he is supposed to, you know, like settle down and pass on, you know, to the other side. So there are a bunch of ghosts in the story who are in the cafe and like, you know, either like waiting it out or waiting for them to be prepared to go under the Whispering Door. The Whispering Door is the other side, if you couldn't tell. I really liked this book. I remember really liking it. Now that I'm looking back at my rating, I gave it a 3.6. I would love to read it again, and I have my thoughts on the book there, and I would just like to reread it with the information that I have in my head right now, which is a subtle, like, what's it called? A mirage of what I believe the story was, because I remember liking it. I did have a few issues with it, but I would just love to revisit it because I love the premise and I just thought it was entertaining. So this is another one I would love to reread. Then we have Yellowface. This has made a few appearances in my videos, but I read this back in March or April, I don't remember, but this kept me like on the edge of my seat. It was such a suspense-filled book and I couldn't put it down. I had some problems with the ending, I will say, but overall this book was like really entertaining. So this is about June. June is an author and she's friends with Athena, who's also an author, but she is significantly more successful than June is. She has more successful book deals and has more connections in the publishing industry, and she's overall the better author. So they are friends, they went to the same college, have the same background. Not the same background, you know what? I meant like education wise. The big difference between June and Athena is that June is white and Athena is Asian. Okay, that is a big component to this book. But Athena and June are hanging out and Athena dies. She chokes on a pancake and June takes it upon herself to steal her unfinished manuscript, edit it, and pass it off as her own. And the whole book is following June and basically her trying to keep the secret to herself. I was so excited for this book and I really liked it, and I would just like to reread it maybe in like a few months just to revisit it because I know it was good, and just for like entertainment I would revisit this because I really liked it. Then we move on back to kind of the books that I read for school, which are just 2 more. So again, for my, what was it, literature into cinema class, we had to pick a book. Like, it was just like a project for us at the end of the year to write a paper about a movie of our choice. So in that class we read Kite Runner, The Color Purple, The Pianist. I feel like I'm missing one other one, but it might just be this one. So previously to this class I had watched The Talented Mr. Ripley with Matt Damon, Jude Law, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Philip Seymour Hoffman. And I thought that movie was fantastic, and I didn't know it was a book prior to it. So when I was researching kind of like books that were adapted into movies, The Talented Mr. Ripley came up, and I remember loving that movie so much that I picked up The Talented Mr. Ripley. And these are, look at how atrocious this looks. But again, there's nothing in there besides like, if you look in my iPad, my notes are all in there about like what these colors mean, but right now I really cannot tell you, and I had a lot to say. But it was just comparing and contrasting the movie versus the book, what it chose to include and what it excluded, and that was kind of the assignment. But the book was good. It was very good. It went into like obviously more detail, but it was so good. So the best way I could describe this would be a better version of Saltburn. So basically it's about this lower income guy, Tom Ripley, who kind of gets the in with this wealthy family. this man hires Tom Ripley to bring back his son from Italy because he's having a whole lot of fun in Italy and he's just not coming back home to live his life in New York City. So Tom was like, I'll do that for you. I'll go get him back. And when Tom goes to Italy to see, his name is Dickie, he becomes fascinated with his like way of life. I don't want to say too much. I'm gonna stop right there. He becomes fascinated with his way of life and it gets really interesting. It is a mystery, a thriller, had a lot of suspense. I really like this book and I would really love to reread this. This is also a part of a series, so maybe if I reread this and I become really interested in Tom Ripley, I'll want to like dive into the series as well. But really good book, really good movie, would recommend. I will preface this by saying that I've come to the conclusion that I do not like science fiction. I took a science fiction class because it was book related and I thought I would like it because I like books. I'd never really read science fiction before, so taking a class on this really took a toll on me. Yeah, I realized that I don't really like science fiction. However, the one book that I really liked out of this class was A Clockwork Orange. And I was surprised, I guess, mostly because the previous books I hadn't really like been interested in them whatsoever, but A Clockwork Orange was different. I rated, this was at the time when I was only rating it in like whole stars, not like 3.5 or 3.4, but I rated this a 3-star read out of 5. I would have to reread it to give an updated rating, but I found the book really interesting. I hadn't watched the movie. It's also a movie if you didn't know. But the concept was there. So I'm gonna read you the synopsis on Goodreads, mostly because it has been a while since I read this. I think it was 2022 when I read this, the first semester of 2022. So I'm gonna read you the synopsis. In Anthony Burgess's influential nightmare vision of the future, criminals take over the dark. Teen gang leader Alex narrates in fantastically inventive slang that echoes the violent intensity of youth rebelling against society. Dazzling and transgressive, A Clockwork Orange is a frightening fable about good and evil and the meaning of human freedom. I think that's all I want to say on the book. I don't want to give too much away again, but I really liked it. So my teacher recommended to get this specific edition, and she also provided us with kind of a glossary of the words that are used in that book because so much of it is a made-up language. Eventually, if you read enough of the book, you'll start catching up on to like what the words mean, but she kind of wanted us to just focus on the material and not focus so much on the words that we didn't understand. But I thought it was a really interesting book. It is the only science fiction book that I've liked so far. I would maybe want to try out the science fiction genre again, but I'm just not sure if right now is the time. But I think I would reread this. If I'm in the mood for science fiction one day and I want to kind of revisit it, I would probably visit this first, come up with my updated rating and how I felt about it, thoughts and everything, and then see if I want to kind of dive into another science fiction book. One that I have been thinking about, which I believe with my whole heart is science fiction, is Red Rising. Could not tell you the premise about it, could not tell you anything about it really. I've just heard people raving about it, saying how good it is and how great the story is. So that is something maybe I will look into at some point. Maybe when I get more context as to what it's about, I'll want to read it more, but as of right now, I'm all good on my science fiction. So yeah, right now, those are all of the books that I would love to reread. I have them right here. I would hold them up, but I'll hold up some. So these, plus A Clockwork Orange and my 3 5-stars. So yeah. Those are all of the books I would love to reread, and yeah. Some I would love to reread more than others right now, and I think sometime soon I'll do that. Mostly when once I get through all of the books that I really want to read right now, I'll dive into like a reread. And obviously as I read more books, this list is going to become more extensive, but right now that is all I have for you today. Thanks for checking out this video. I'll see you in a new one coming soon. Don't know what's next, but I'm excited to see it personally. Yeah, thanks. and bye.